Good afternoon, everyone. Nice to meet new faces, and welcome to our 7th episode of season 4 of our Enrich Your Coffee. Today, I'm very happy to welcome the EPOS Thematic Core Service Anthropogenic Hazard team, who will present the episodes platform. The session will be led by Ian Stimson, who's senior lecturer in geophysics at Keele University and vice chair of the EPOS TCS AH consortium board. I will let Ian present the people who's joining him, but just before I hand him the screen, I would like to invite you all to turn on your cameras, hold up your cup and smile for our traditional group picture that you all well know now. So for those who don't have a cup, just grab anything or just smile. That's perfect.
All right. 1, 2, 3. Thank you.
Thanks. So now, Ian, I hand you the screen.
Okay, well, welcome. As I said, a small team of us leading this presentation this afternoon. Myself as vice chair of the consortium board, helping me is Professor Savka Dineva, who is our lead on projects and partnerships, and Dr. Glenda Jones from our promotion and dissemination team. Just sort of lead you through the alphabet soup of TLAs and FLAs, the 3-letter abbreviations and 4-letter abbreviations. Starting, if you like, at the top level with EPOS. This is the European Plate Observing System, pan-European distributed research infrastructure designed to ensure a sustainable and universal use and reuse of all kinds of multidisciplinary solid earth science data and data products, with the idea of fostering research and innovation in this particular area. The key philosophy behind this is that it's a distributed system, it's federated, it's integrated, sustainable and durable. And you can see that the basics statistics involving 25 countries, 140 research organizations, and covering the general areas of earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, tsunamis, tectonics, geodetic information, and so forth. ERIC is the European Research Infrastructure Consortium, this specific legal form that facilitates establishment and operation of research infrastructures in Europe. And EPOS is proud to be an ERIC member, and this provides virtual access to data and physical access to facilities. It strengthens our data management and interoperability through e-science innovation, and it allows us a communication platform with various stakeholders, fostering open science and communication. So EPOS ERIC as a research infrastructure serves the solid earth sciences, and essentially there's, if you like, 3 components to it. We've got the EPOS ERIC, and it's integrated core services, or ICS, and this is the sort of higher level platform which provides the portal, user interfaces, access to data products and user management. And then this links through a compatibility layer to individual thematic core services, which deal with particular areas of the subject. So seismology, geodetics, volcano observatories, and so forth. And various national research bodies then feed their data into the TCS. So sort of how it all interlinks is we've got the core services with this interoperability and the user management. We are just one of the thematic core services looking at anthropogenic hazards over in the TCS end. And we've got various research institutions and industry organizations that feed us data. And the idea is that we take that data, ensure that it's in a common format and that it's all quality controlled. And then when we're happy that we've got a collection of data, then we release that suite of data as what we call an episode, and various users can then access that via the EPOS platform. And these users range from scientists with research interests, government, private sector, and also general society. So at the national research infrastructure end, these are users that, or the organizations that create data. They often look at this in a real-time sense. Various operations can generate micro earthquakes, and there's a real-time monitoring going on. But after a project is finished, then what these organizations can do is to hand over the data to us. As I said, we then look at it, ensure that it's in a common format so that the platform operates the same way for all the different organizations that feed us data, and that the tools that we provide to analyze the data all work on that data. The next level, as I said, is the TCSs themselves, and so we're the anthropogenic hazards bit, and we've got the ICS, the overall integrated platform. And hopefully it all links up and coordinates. The idea behind the data structures are that they accord to the FAIR principles. So the information is findable, accessible, interoperable, reusable, and reproducible. And as we've mentioned, it's a pan European project with many partners, and indeed some of the data sets that we have in the anthropogenic hazards are global. We've got examples from the United States and certainly the Far East as well. So at the integrated core services layer, this is where users can come in and access various parts of the data from the various TCSs. So they might access earthquake data, the stars here from the seismology TCS. We've got active fault traces from the tectonics part. We've got a background geological map. From the One Geology portal, we've got potential to bring in the ground surface movement from satellite data from the geodesy community. So it's this idea of more than 220 distributed data and software services all combined under these findable, accessible, interoperable and reusable principles. Various level of data on the platform. So if we sort of start off at the sort of the level 0, which is raw data or basic data, and this can include things like the earthquake seismograms, the records of the ground movement. Then that data can be passed into automated or nearly automated procedures to do things like determining the orientation of the fault that generated the earthquake, mapping out those faults through patterns in the earthquake locations, and then higher level products like mapping out the active fault systems and looking at the patterns of rupture and movement along the geological faults. And level 3 products, things like seismic hazard maps. So taking all of the information about the active faults, the seismicity, the information about the ruptures to produce maps to indicate that the risk of a certain amount of ground movement forecast for a particular area over a particular time frame. And then level 4 products are things like the software and the IT tools to analyze the various pieces of information on the platform. So coming to our bit, the Thematic core service for anthropogenic hazards. This is the part that looks at these human-induced earthquakes from a variety of industrial processes, being the mining and quarrying, water reservoir impoundment, both conventional and unconventional hydrocarbons, and a couple of technologies that will be really useful going forward in meeting our Kyoto climate obligations, those as geothermal energy and carbon capture and storage. And as I mentioned, various organizations working either from industry or research projects from research institutes provide us with particular data sets. These are collected into these thematic collections that we call episodes. These typically start off with catalogues of where the earthquakes are, their size, and the earthquake seismograms, the waveforms from the ground shaking. But we also provide associated production data. So, for example, the example on the right here is the seismicity in the Groningen gas field in the Netherlands. So the episode also includes information on the production of gas from the gas field. And there are also software analysis tools to have a look to see if there are causal relationships between changes in production of the gas from the gas field and the location and magnitude of any seismicity. So, as we mentioned, our packages of data and tools we call episodes, and currently I think we're on 45 different episodes. We've got 66 dedicated services, nearly 240,000 different data items, and well over 1,300 users registered on the system. So we can search our various episodes by type. This is just selecting those related to mining and minerals. But as I said, we've got hydrocarbons, carbon capture and storage, geothermal, and so forth. And each episode provides a link to the things like the seismic catalogue of where the events are, maybe waveform data, but also associated data such as satellite information on ground deformation, industrial information on the gas production, and also references on historical research based on activity in that particular area. And so if we might go and have a look at that particular information, here's some examples from a water reservoir impoundment in Poland. Here is one of these small micro earthquakes generated associated with that reservoir. And we've also got the water level in the reservoir, and we can see if or if not, the seismic activity relates to changes in water level in the reservoir. Also within the platform, we've got a number of visualization tools. So this just allows us to visualize the data in particular ways. This is the visualization of the earthquake locations in 3 dimensions of mining related seismicity of a coal field in the UK. Whole series of software application tools for taking the raw data and processing them to produce useful and meaningful results. And because we've standardized the data formats in the episodes to begin with, then we can apply these processes to all of the episode data that we have. Registering on the platform for free gives you access to a workspace. You can download the data, like a particular catalog, into that workspace, and you can then apply a number of applications to that data, and indeed daisy chain, so you can put the output from one application into the input into another. You can also download the data out of the platform, so you can process it locally. This is some outreach work that I've been involved with in just sort of visualizing data as art for try and get the general public interested in what we do. But it's something that you can also do with the data on the platform. So our research impact, sort of on the research side, as I said, we've got open, fair data. It's curated, it's in a common format. We've got a standard set of data analysis tools that operate on that data, and also associated literature and production data, so that you can understand what's going on in this particular episode. For education, we've got industry standard data that we can use for training. We've got materials that students can use as research projects, and the analysis tools that will work on that data. For industry, in donating their data, they obviously get publicity and outreach opportunities. It's good for showing their openness and corporate responsibility and willingness to engage with the general public. We provide them with long-term data archiving after their initial project is finished, and they've probably finished with the data themselves. But we can also have the potential to provide mitigation strategies. So by having all kinds of people analyze the microseismicity and the production data. It may be that they come up with ideas about what's causing particular seismicity, and that is something that the industry could maybe mitigate against in the future and actually reduce their impact on the environment and local populations. And then finally, we've got the general public. As I mentioned, we've got science outreach opportunities. They've got access to open data. Anybody can register on the platform. And hopefully we can demystify various contentious issues, particularly thinking of fracking here. So that's our sort of brief overview. Links to the website if you're particularly interested in having a look at the wider EPOS project or what we do in TCS AH. And there's also a Nature Scientific Data publication on the actual open data infrastructure behind TCS AH. So that's it from me, and I'd sort of open it up to any questions.
Thank you very much, Ian. That was very interesting. A lot of details, and it seems to be very technical at some point. Is there any questions from anyone? Yes, Pauline.
Yeah, I would just ask a question on the way that people are sharing their data with you. So at the moment, it's really made on the willingness of people to share their data and make it usable by all. There is no obligation from any industries or institution to actually share the data with you and make them interoperable and available for all, or?
At the minute, there is no obligation to share the data. It's having a willing partner makes things so much easier. You have a dialogue. It would probably, there may be in the future a European requirement to do, once a project like this, it may be a requirement of European funding to make sure that the data is archived on a platform such as ours. But that's, I think, something for going forward. In this sort of initial phase, it's been really useful having both research institutes and industry willingly get involved. I think so the mandatory European thing is something for further down the line.
Thanks.
Other questions?
If no one has one, I would have
yes,
one.
Robert.
Yeah, so I'm new. I'm Robert. Been here before. Ian, thank you for the talk. I have some general questions. So I have two things. So the first one is, do you, when you say you're demystifying things like fracking, and so what are you doing specifically? Do you write some articles about this, or how do you approach this?
I think it's the potential to do things like this. We can certainly run outreach type projects, and being able to show people that there is open data that they can go and have a look at themselves, that nobody's trying to hide anything. And here are the earthquake locations, here are the records, these are the size of the events. I think one of the biggest issues with fracking is that it's like a lot of these other technologies like 5G, and there is a core of people that take against it through essential basic ignorance and conspiracy theory, that people are trying to hide something. And I think if you can say, well, run outreach events using the data which is open, and they can use the tools themselves. If they want to analyze it, they can download the data and play with it to it's that kind of thing. It's the openness of the platform lends itself to all kinds of uses, from from hardcore research into the exactly what's going on with hydrofracture and how it might induce earthquakes, to general public and outreach, and also
Okay, thank you. And if I may, I have one more. It's okay.
Sure.
It's just when industry shares data with you, you said that they will have like publicity and outreach. That is so they can share that they basically are open-minded to appear at your platform, or how does it look like?
Yeah, well, I think that's largely down to the industry themselves. But obviously it's something that we try and promote, to say, well, look, hey, we've got a brand new episode from this organization on the platform. And that's where our promotion and dissemination team, it's great where Glenda comes in. But also, they're obviously donating the data because they want to and for a reason. And at the minute, I said we're not compelling them to. And so as part of that donation of the data, well, they may well wish to indicate that they are being open and transparent and corporately responsible, but that's largely for the industry themselves.
Okay, thank you.
Is there more questions? I might have one, actually. I'm actually wondering, I'm curious about how do you reach out to industry? How do they come to do the research? And I mean, because I understood that they give you the data that is coming out from the work they've been doing. So how do you connect with them?
Shafka, do you want to say a word on it?
Yeah. First of all, this is based on personal connections, because we have a very good network of researchers which are working in this infrastructure, for this infrastructure. But also each one of us has some kind of connections with the industry. So basically, it is more like through this network that we're getting most of the data and the connections with the industry. Of course, we are relying also on the outreach and publications and presentations at different conferences. But for now, I would say that most of our achievements are through this kind of connections. Of course, it doesn't mean that all the contacts are a priori. Maybe somebody from the industry could be interested and they will contact us. So we will establish personal contact. So I think it is mostly like this. Maybe Ian, you can add something.
I think previous research projects have allowed a significant amount of data to come through from the SHEAR project, which focused on shale gas exploitation and the environmental impacts of that. There was another project, S4CE, Science for Clean Energy, that there's some data from industry that's come from that project. So these previous established research projects have had industry allow us to get them involved and provide data as well.
And from the data that you are sharing, do you track what happens with them? I mean, with what people do with it, like can that help generating like innovation or like new developments, or do you just like have an open database and people just come and I would imagine that you could follow what people do with the data, or who are the people coming and using them?
Yeah, I chair our user group, so that we obviously get statistics from the platform about who's accessing what, and we also do surveys of our users to find out what they're using it for and how they're using the platform and how it's working for them, those kinds of things.
And so do you see that it's been used for technology development or for new innovation, or is it only like?
I think it is for a whole variety of uses. Most of it is research and teaching. I'd say we're probably the two biggest areas.
Mm-hmm.
Because, as I said, there are excellent industry class data sets.
Yeah.
And it's very hard otherwise to I mean, I'm using it to teach natural hazards to our students next week, and we're getting them all registered on the platform, and they will go in and do the data analysis. So we're training up the next generation of people who understand these kinds of anthropogenic hazards.
We've also had industry individuals involved because they want to develop their own software as well. So they've used the data on the platform to test out on their own sort of software, which is another interesting aspect of their involvement and usage of the data.
Okay. Well, we're running out of time, but yeah, I think because I mean, with the type of study or research or data you might be able to share, I was thinking of maybe development for like, anticipating on potential future earth hazards or earthquake, and that could be you could develop, I don't know, software or technology on apps or to kind of predict things, and I could see industry taking over this type of data for their development. So that was
actually now we are exploring which way to go. And we are just in the way to send a survey to the members of our community to see how we would like to develop, because we are at some stage, but we expect that we will grow and we will develop more into the connections with industry. And we would like to see what is the opinion, but we are also towards developing more advanced projects which can help the industry. So one of them is time-dependent seismic hazard. This is like a pilot project that is under development right now, that is at higher level than all the levels that Ian showed in his presentation. He showed some data, some services, but they're at comparatively low level, while this will be more advanced and it can have more impact or more applications directly to the industry.
okay.
We're still developing. It is not.
So opportunities for industry.
There are more opportunities, and we're looking forward for also some innovation based on our data and services.
Okay, well, that's very interesting, and it will be nice to follow up on what happens with that. So I think if there's no more question, we can close our episode for today. We are 5 minutes behind, so I think that's so thank you very much. I think it's very interesting and a lot to follow up in the future, and don't hesitate to keep us informed on the developments. And we thank you again for your time, and thanks everyone. And we see you next week. And next week we will receive Sven Farner and Tony Pridmore, who will present the ENPhaSIS, so the European Infrastructure for Plant Phenotyping, and their innovation pilot. So the registration are already open. Don't hesitate to sign up, and we wish you a great week.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks so much.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Bye.
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 Bye.